When Tim Talks Talkies puts out a community challenge, there's no negotiation. You just do it. So let's just do it. Let's build a 4K box set. What's going on, everybody? Thank you for coming back to the Bearded Film Guy channel. I am Chris, aka Bearded Film Guy, and of course, we're here today to do the community challenge put out by none other than Tim from Tim Talks Talkies, and that is building your dream 4K box set. And there's a couple of different ways that I interpreted that. I was like, okay, we could pick a bunch of movies that aren't on 4K yet, and we can just pick some more favorites and build a box set. And there's been a couple of people I've seen. Bob did an awesome video over on his channel on sports movies that have never even come to Blu-ray. So there's a lot of different avenues to take when it comes to this challenge. And for me personally, I'm not the biggest I need to upgrade to 4K person. I am a physical media collector, but there's a lot of times when I have, Blu-ray copy of a movie in my hand and I have a 4K copy, and a lot of times I just end up going with the Blu-ray. It's a format that I haven't 100% really taken a dive into yet. And I have a bunch of 4Ks, I have plenty. And there's movies that I've seen that make a huge difference. There's also movies that I've seen that make no difference. So, the format is up and down for me. So when it came to approaching this challenge for me, I was like, okay, let me pick a genre that I love, right? I'll pick horror, right? I love the horror genre. There's a bunch of movies that have not come to 4K yet. Do I think all of these films are going to be totally different experiences when, upgraded to 4K? Not really. I just figured if I was to make a Bearded Film Guy box set that was the perfect explanation, a perfect series of films that I love, what would I put in there? And I got 5. I somehow managed 5. So let's dive into a Bearded Film Guy 4K box set focused on my taste in horror. Yeah, let's go. So my first pick is a movie that I think most fans of horror that collect physical media wish it would make a 4K appearance, and I think it's way overdue for one. I know when it comes to this director's films, it's tough. There's some rights issues, there's some stuff going on, but my pick for number 1 is going to be George Romero's Day of the Dead. This is the incredible, I think the best release of the movie so far. The Blu-ray put out by Scream Factory. I love Dawn of the Dead. I have the 4K set, right back there. There's something different to Day of the Dead. I can't really... It's hard to compare the two. I think Day of the Dead is a much smaller scaled, a little bit more intelligent approach to a zombie story. And of course you see that in the experiments. You see that in Bub. And George Romero, with each film that he's done in his zombie franchise, kind of looks at things from a little bit of a different perspective, right? So it's not just the same idea over and over and over again, because who would want that? I'm looking at you, most genre franchises. But with Day of the Dead, first of all, I think it's Savini's masterpiece. I love every film Savini's ever done. From a makeup point of view, I do think Day of the Dead is going to be kind of his magnum opus. It's going to be the movie that he's really going to be remembered for. But also, I just think it's such a smart approach. It was such a smart way that only Romero could do to approach a sequel and create characters that you love and hate and put them against each other and still make it real enough that you can say, okay, if this was to happen, yeah, I can see this in reality. I can 100% see this playing out in my head. During, if this was to ever happen, which, I don't know, maybe zombies are real. Not 100% sure. But yeah, the first movie in my box set would be the long-awaited George Romero's Day of the Dead. I've been planning out this challenge for a couple of days now. I kind of would put some movies in my notes and then I'll take some out, and I'm just trying to build the perfect one. And I ended up watching this particular movie, and I posted about it, And I actually thought this had a 4K release. I guess it didn't because I didn't find it anywhere. I didn't think it had a US one, but I thought maybe elsewhere it did. But for my second choice in my box set, I'm going to go with Brian Bertino's The Strangers. And I love a good simple thriller. I think that there is more skill on display and a simpler plot that is just really smartly executed, right? And very thrilling. And you don't need these crazy plot lines or characters to really make it all make sense. In fact, you don't actually need to explain much of anything to the audience. They get it, and if they don't, it doesn't need to be explained to them, right? So, and I think a lot of thrillers, especially horror, tend to kind of overcomplicate things, thinking it's kind of accelerating it to the next level, and really it's just sort of a detriment to the content, to the film. And I think The Strangers is straight up as simple as it can get. You have a couple who is fighting after a proposal. They get to the house, and these three people show up and just start terrorizing them, start playing with their head. They start he's in the house, or Sack Guy, he's in the house with her. She doesn't know. He takes his cell phone and throws it in the fire. And the house is in the middle of the woods, much like my house is. So there's this really eerie feeling, but it's handled so well here. And on the technical side of things, the sound design is so good. The scares are so well planned. And to be honest, there's not a ton of jump scares. It's more scary just by circumstance, right? By somebody you know they're there. You know the bad guys, the villains are there. And our good guy, our victim is standing out in the middle of nowhere. So we're not dumb. You know that they're there, yet somehow you just start feeling it, and it's so goddamn effective. Every single time I watch this movie, and I do think this film, with much of the darkness, much on display here, would do really well in 4K. So the second film in my box set would be Brian Bertino's The Strangers. So for my third pick, this is another movie that I'm shocked does not have a US 4K release. I don't think it has a 4K release really anywhere. And that is Stuart Gordon's ReAnimator. I finally got my hands on this beautiful box set here. But ReAnimator, one of my favorite films of all time. Dr. Herbert West is a maniac. Everything about ReAnimator is just pure cheese and fun. The violence is so gruesome, but there's this slight little tickle of humor in it, so it kind of offsets it. And then you have this crazy moment where a decapitated head is being held by its body, and it's assaulting Barbara Crampton, who's naked on the table. Like, this movie just goes all over the place, everywhere and anywhere, and the entire ride is bonkers fun. It's gory as all hell. It's just horror unleashed, and only somebody like H.P. Lovecraft could write a story like this, and then only somebody like Stuart Gordon could direct it, right? And of course you have why am I blanking on name? Jeffrey Combs playing Herbert West. It's kind of become a pop culture like character forever in this role. I remember watching Peter Jackson's The Frighteners being like, hey, look, Dr. Herbert West is here. But yeah, I mean, ReAnimator has just always been an absolute favorite of mine. I just love how it absolutely just goes for it all and does not hold back. It doesn't feel the need to hold itself back. And it really, I think, would benefit well from a good 4K release. So number 3 in my box set is going to be ReAnimator. So for number 4 in my box set, I can't explain how much I love this movie, right? What I'm about to show you. And it is based on a Stephen King novella, short story. Frank Darabont just absolutely blew this movie out of the park. And this is a movie that I actually saw it at the Broadway Theater in Pittman, New Jersey, when it came out. And this movie's never, ever left my mind. And I'm talking about Frank Darabont's The Mist. I mean, this is one of those movies that should not have worked as well as it does, right? And it does so well by making the character problems the characters, dramatic issues that are happening inside of the store. Everybody's scared and they're pressed together, and you have these character issues that start to arise, and mainly because it's not the monsters that are scary. I mean, they're scary, right? But they're not the scariest thing. What is actually so scary about this are the people, right? And how quickly they turn their back on each other, how quickly they tend to lean on false prophets or people who kind of stand tall above everybody else, right? Because they think, of status or who they are in the world, or whatever the reason may be, right? In this point, it's religion. There's a couple of really terrible characters in here, and they're up against people who are genuinely good people and trying to find resolve in this situation. And it creates these, this really intriguing character issue where at the end of the day, you kind of wonder what I said earlier, kind of, which is what is scarier? Is it the people or is it the monsters? It's constantly brought up in film. It's a constant thing, a constant theme in horror. And it's done so well here in The Mist. And the reason why I kind of want this movie to come on 4K is because the black and white version fits so well. I mean, come on, the movie works excellent in color, but the black and white movie version of this is absolutely incredible. I think 4K can really help with the depth, with the I think that the contrast can definitely be improved on 4K. And I cannot make a box set of my favorite horror movies without including The Mist, because to be quite frank, this is the best ending, which by the way was not the ending in King's original work. This is the best ending of any horror film I've ever seen, horror, thriller, whatever you want to label it as. So film number 4 for me is going to be The Mist. All right, so last but not least, number 5. I'm going to take kind of a crazy route here and take a wild stab in the dark, but I think genre-wise, this is a film that would fit well in the set. And, maybe not all of the movies I chose are like perfectly aligned with each other, and that's okay. But for my 5th pick, I wanted to pick something that comes from a director I absolutely love. But the film that was so hard to watch and so shocking to me, and I know to others, but especially to me, I would love to see a 4K upgrade of this, genuinely. And that is Lars von Trier's Antichrist. This stars Willem Dafoe. It also stars what is her name? Yeah, Charlotte Gainsbourg. And this is a movie that was a blind buy for me. I was basically trying to collect all of Lars von Trier's filmography. I had no idea what this movie was about. I was absolutely floored in the first 5 minutes, which is basically the opening credits. And then pretty much locked in for the rest of the 108-minute runtime. And this is a film that's very divisive, right? The last act of this movie is absolutely nuts. The movie's loaded with crazy imagery. It's definitely more art house than I think a lot of people like to enjoy. It definitely has its crowd, but for not being a direct horror film, Antichrist is one of the scariest films I've ever sat through. Just the feeling in my bones and my gut the entire time I was watching this, there was like this unease, right? And then all leads into this explosion of a third act that's just absolutely out of control. I can't even explain it to you. You have to have seen it. But I think Antichrist would work so well with a good 4K upgrade. I think HDR would really help some of the visual choices in this pop and hit, and it's a movie that I think kind of needs a little bit of a refresh, even if it's Criterion just re-releasing it in 4K. I think it needs to be kind of like reintroduced to audiences. I mean, now the film's been out since 2009, but yeah, pick number 5 for me in my 4K box set is going to be Lars von Trier's Antichrist. And there you have it. I mean, there's my dream horror 4K box set. To anybody who is interested in doing this challenge that hasn't yet and is maybe watching this video and being like, yeah, I'm going to participate, make it your own. Like, seriously, pick movies that you love. This is your 4K box set. And I would love to see, like, the reason I loved Bob's videos so much is because he was picking sports films I've never seen. I love a good sports movie. And he picked some I've never seen. They've never even had a Blu-ray release. Like, these are movies that are just sitting around begging for a good new release. And, while everything that I showed is accessible, It explores in general kind of my taste in horror outside of like, most of the 80s and 70s 60s sleaze I love is on 4K now. Thank God that we're in a society at a time of physical media where that stuff is that way, but there's still a lot that isn't. And when you're building your 4K box set, really think about that and really pick movies that explain who you are and why you want them. So I want to thank Tim from Tim Talks Talkies for introducing this challenge to the community. If you like what you see here, do me a favor, follow me over on Instagram. That's going to be at Beardedfilmguy, the same thing. Also, shoot a like and a subscribe. We're growing really quickly. We're at like around 350 subscribers, which is incredible. So, but go ahead, do it. Pick 3 to 5 movies. Build your dream 4K box set. Put it here on YouTube. I would love to watch it. I know Tim would love to watch it. I know everybody else in the community would also dig to watch it, even if you don't think so. So, yep, that's going to be it for me, guys. Thanks for hanging out. Later.